Good afternoon, it's just gone 12 o'clock on Wednesday the 22nd of July. My name is Councillor Vicky Slade and I am hopefully live on Facebook. If somebody from BCP Council or somebody's watching could put something in the comment, as last week we had a technical issue and I wasn't able to see any of the comments, which meant that I chatted away to myself for about 10 minutes assuming nobody was viewing. I think I've got some comments, so that's good news. Welcome to Barbara, you're the first person I can see that's joined and I've got my first thumbs up. First thing I just want to say before we get starting is the incredibly sad news that we've had to report, that one of our councillors sadly passed away on Monday morning, which has come as an incredible shock to all of us, and in particular the Lib Dem group, those of us who knew Pete very well, who was a councillor for Camford Heath. He'd only been a councillor since May of last year, but he had been part of our team for a considerable time longer than that, and was a much valued community activist who loved a great litter pick and a cuppa. That was really shocking news to us. You will be aware that because of the COVID legislation, councils aren't allowed to hold any by-elections at the moment. We now have two councillors who have passed away since COVID has begun, and we therefore are two down in our councillor number, and we await legislation changes that allow us to restore that. In the meantime, obviously our condolences go out to Tan and Brenda and the rest of the family, and of course to his colleagues in Camford Heath. So first thing here, just been having a coffee outside the Custom House, lots of pedestrians and cyclists. It's clear there's issues with drivers moving the lightweight barriers and driving through. Oh gosh. Okay, if Councillor Hadley is watching this, please can you pick this up? If not, can my colleagues in comms make an urgent call out to our team and see what we can do, because it's absolutely not okay. Between the hours of 10 a.m. and 10 p.m. it is a traffic free area, and we really do need to make sure that doesn't happen. Further signage, so there are, okay, leave it with us James, we'll sort that out. Yes, Maureen, the technology is working today. Please do make a comment or ask a question, because I am now up to date, which is good news. Welcome. I can see one of our portfolio holders has joined, so if there's any finance related questions, I'm sure Councillor Brown will be able to assist. So a few things just to update you and get you started. Obviously we're back to fabulous weather. Our beaches are busy, but they are manageable. We have parking attendants ready to go on beaches where they are busy, where we need to close car parks. My husband was out kayaking before 7 o'clock this morning, and he said Branksome Chine was full by 7:30. So you know, we are aware that people are coming to the beach incredibly early at the moment. Can I give you info on who is exempt from wearing masks in shops? Sarah, I can't give you advice on that. It's really about whether or not you are exempt from wearing a mask, in the same way as for the buses, so you will need to check that there isn't an exemption card the council will give if you have a significant reason why you shouldn't be wearing a mask, and that includes children under 11, I believe. Those people who've got serious conditions can avoid wearing a mask. It isn't just a mask though, you are able to wear something else, so religious face coverings are acceptable, bandanas, scarves, things that cover your mouth and nose and are secure across so that you can protect others. Please remember, this is as much about the protection of others as for the protection of yourself. So it really should only be used in an exempt situation and not as a reason not to wear a mask. If we all wear a mask and we all create space and social distance, we will all stay safe. And I can't stress enough that, you know, we all have a responsibility to each other here. We're still in a great position where I think we've had 5 or 6 cases in the last week in the BCP area. We need to keep it that way, and less than 1 a day, preferably even fewer. but we're not going to do that if people don't wear a mask. So please don't put shop workers in a position where they've got to ask you to leave their shop, or for goodness sake, please don't cause some altercation over it. It is a face covering, and in most cases you are perfectly able to breathe well with either a medical mask or a fabric mask, which you can make. Our library team put a thing on last week showing you how to make it. It doesn't need to be expensive. You can use an old t-shirt or an old sock. So there's absolutely no reason why there needs to be a financial reason why you can't create a mask. Our homeless population, we are conscious that we're going to need to make some provision for them, but for everybody else, if you've got an old t-shirt, you can probably make a mask appropriately. Am I joining the Young Liberals conference, Josh? Gosh, I'm too old. I suppose I could join. My children could join, they're members, but I have no plans to join. But if people would like me to join for some reason, send me an email. I'm more than happy. The COVID R rate was reported as 1.5 by the Echo. Is this the highest? I'm unaware of it being 1.5. The last update I had was on Monday, at which point it was less than 1. I'll get another update later in the week. Clearly, if it's going in the wrong direction, we have the ability to implement our LOMP, our local outbreak management plan, but at this point that's not been instigated, and clearly our Director of Public Health will advise us accordingly, and we will step up whatever we need to do. Hi, I've been a business licensing question. I've been trying to call the switchboard. There is a switchboard number that you can call, one in Poole, one in Bournemouth, one in Christchurch. They are operating. I'm afraid maybe our team can give you an updated telephone number. I'm not sure what your business licensing question is. If it's something you can put on here, I can try answering it. But otherwise, it may well simply be that they're incredibly busy, that the switchboard is operating. They are operating every day, so it may be a case of trying again. Why do beach huts not have fire regulations like having a fire extinguisher in all huts? Sam, I don't know whether there are rules about having a fire extinguisher. You are allowed to have a camping stove. One item in each beach hut is allowed, has always been allowed. We have thousands of beach huts in the location. This is not something that happens regularly, but occasionally an accident will happen. You are not allowed to keep fire risk items in there alongside the gas stove. So for example, you're not allowed to keep paint in a beach hut. We will obviously look at it. I would recommend anyone that has anywhere that has any sort of gas appliance has a fire extinguisher, but of course making sure that it's the right fire extinguisher for the type of fire, because there's different fire extinguishers. So I'm sure if there is a need under our insurance to have the fire regulations, they'll be there, and if there isn't a need, then they won't be there. But there is something about personal responsibility here. If you have your kettle on boiling your cup of tea, which is why a lot of people have a beach hut, then you shouldn't leave you shouldn't leave it unattended. If you've done that, then absolutely there is a risk, but we can't remove all risk. It's just not possible and not realistic to expect the council to take that responsibility. Toilets are so much cleaner than ever before. Please keep the standard. Nikki, let me tell you something. My family will tell you I have an aversion to public toilets. I will not go in public toilets. I am very selective. I would, rather give myself tummy ache than use a public toilet. A couple of weeks ago, I was down at Branksome Beach, and I needed to use my daughter needed to use the toilet. I thought I'd go in there with her, check it out. I was so impressed at how clean they were that I actually used the toilet, which normally I'd go in the toilet and then not use it and leave again. So Nikki, you're right, the team are doing a great job, and we will do everything we can. We are also on a pretty heavy programme of upgrade and maintenance of our toilets on the seafront. So many of them have had really big upgrades over the winter, so we're going to work on that. Are there any plans for a Bournemouth town centre revamp, such as empty shops? There is a town centre vision which is being reviewed. Clearly the loss of big stores like like Beals is huge, and that happened pre-COVID. There was some interest in that building. There's likely to be a lot of interest in that building. What we need to do with our town centres is rethink them so that they aren't just about shopping. They need to be about shopping. We need to put people living in the town centre, so there needs to be upper floor flats that are converted so that people can live there. If they're living in town, they don't need a car. We need to have more entertainment in the town centres. We need to have play. We need to have work, so that actually people have got live-work units, and let's rethink our town centres. That work is ongoing. We've got work going on in Bournemouth, viewing the town centre vision, in Poole Town Centre, Boscombe. Christchurch at the moment is working well, but if there is any opportunity to bid for extra funding, the next project will be Christchurch, so that we can make that even more wonderful than it already is. Still waiting for housing goals. High medical issues, prefer to pay for care home rather than rehouse. Catherine, there's a housing allocations policy, and there are many people who are on gold. We can't house all of them, particularly if people keep objecting to plans that we have to build new council houses. You know, we had a huge problem last month with local people trying to block 14 new homes that we were building for families who were on gold housing need. We have to build the houses to provide them. We can't magic extra houses. I'm really sorry, it's not ideal, but we will move people as quickly as we can when they are at the highest possible banding. But we cannot create council housing. When people are need a care home coming out of a hospital, we have no choice but to provide them with that. So, you know, I'm afraid it's just the way things are. Why can't a boxing gym based in the Embassy building not be allowed to reopen alongside privately run boxing gyms in the BCP area? I'm afraid I can't answer that. You'll need to. Most community buildings are run by trustees, so I suspect the Embassy building is a community centre of some sort. Community centres have a board of trustees, and those board of trustees are working with the council to decide how they feel they can best open. So if that is what we're looking at here, then it's down to the trustees to decide what they think are safe. And if they don't believe it's safe that a particular facility can open, then they have every right to keep it closed. Sports and leisure facilities are allowed to open from the 25th. However, they can only do so if they can maintain social distancing, and they can cover all of the other issues that relate to COVID secure. So, for example, the Two Rivers Meet swimming pool opens next week. That's the only one that's run directly by the council, and that will be opening the swimming pool, but we'll be opening it with a different capacity, no swimming lessons. You won't be able to get changed there. You've got to arrive in your swimming gear and leave in your swimming gear. So there's lots of changes. The Two Rivers Meet gym has got fantastic new equipment. It's socially distanced, it's upgraded, there are lots more sanitation stations. If the Embassy building doesn't feel it can actually fund all of those improvements, then they aren't going to be able to open, and therefore, you know, they have to factor in whether they can meet those guidelines and keep people safe. So you will need to really talk to them about what decision making they've had. You know, I'm a trustee of a local community centre, and it's likely that that community centre will say we will open for A, B and C, but not D, E and F. And that is the responsibility of the trustees to do that. Are there any plans to open paddling pools? Jennifer, at the moment, no. And the reason for that is that the legislation around swimming pools is around paid for pools, where you can monitor people coming and going and you know who's attending. Our paddling pools are free to use. They also have quite a lot of water sprays and things which actually create more problems, and they are aimed at you small children who are very, very difficult to social distance. So at the moment they will stay closed. Hamworthy swimming pool, a paddling pool, has additional issues in that there's some snagging that should have been resolved in the spring, but because of COVID the contract has delayed. And so we can't open that until it's safe to do so. So we will open them if it becomes safe and if it's viable. If they are not deemed to be safe until too late into the summer season, then we won't continue and open them. because if we do, then actually by the time they're made safe, it takes a couple of weeks for the water to be ready, then there's no time to actually benefit from them. Just a quick update, I've literally just had through my update on the system briefing for the number of COVID cases. So for information, in BCP Council we have had 6 cases in the last 5 days. That's 1.5 cases per 100,000 people. The English average rate is 3.6 cases per 100,000 people, so that is deemed low. Dorset has the same number, 6. The R number nationally is between 0.7 and 0.9. The government publishes regional estimates, and South West is between 0.7 and 1.1. We have had no care home outbreaks in the last 7 days within our area, so there's absolutely no reason for us to make any changes. When the infection numbers are so low, the R rate isn't useful. You're right, Maureen, actually. The R rate, if we go from 6 cases to 12 cases, there will still be a very low number of cases. We'd still only be at the average of the rates per 100,000, but our R rate will have gone through the roof. So we do have to be mindful. You're absolutely right, Maureen. Thank you for clarifying that. What's in place to help deaf people who rely on lip reading? Well, we're not responsible for face masks. I mean, to make that really, really clear. I saw a fabulous thing on the news last night about people who are now making masks that have see-through bits. I've also seen some fabulous apps. What was it called? Google Live Transcribe, which lots of people are now using so that they can talk and what they're saying comes up on their phone. It's definitely worth a try for people. Perhaps if we all give it a go. We don't know when we're dealing with someone who is deaf, and I would definitely recommend that shops show their staff what they can do with that. Can the new road layout signs be put up at Wallace Down Roundabout? David, I'm happy to raise that. I'm not sure which bit you're talking about, because the Wallace Down Roundabout, are you talking about the little one where the road layout's been in place already for quite some time and there haven't been any accidents I'm aware of? If you're talking about what's happening at Boundary Road, that work's not yet complete, so there's likely to be new road layout go up there as it opens. It's probably a bit shutting the door after the horse has bolted if you're talking about the small roundabout with the new zebra crossing, but perhaps you might want to clarify. Are any street wardens back in Poole? Upper High Street was almost run over by a family cycling en masse up the street. Well, we do have CSAS officers and there are street wardens. Whether they're going to happen to be there at the time that they're cycling up shared space, if it's a shared space, which the High Street is because it's a former road, then they're not going to stop someone cycling if it is in an area where cycling is allowed. I think we've just got to be mindful that if you're in a place that's got a blue sign, so be really clear, where there is a blue sign with a pedestrian and a bike, it is a shared space. We should expect to see bikes in those locations. Cyclists should be giving way to pedestrians, but it is a shared space. So don't be surprised if you see a cyclist there, because it's allowed. If you're on a pavement that is not got a blue sign, it's a pavement and therefore you shouldn't expect to see cyclists. But if it's a road that's been opened up to pedestrians or it's a blue signed space, it's shared. So we would not expect, apart from during the summer ban on the promenade, we would not expect people to be stopping people cycling because they're perfectly allowed to cycle. Go on to the Moorbus site if you've got difficulties. Thank you, Jean. Yes, Moorbus and Globe buses both have, I think, little signs you can show if you've got a reason to not have face masks. Why are the council so anti-car? Oh, Sean, come on. We're not anti-car. But actually, in Boscombe, did you know that only 50% of people have a car? And typically across the whole of BCP, 1 in 3 households don't have a car. Many people over the age of 75 rely on public transport, and many people under the age of 25 also rely on public transport, or they rely on 2 wheels or their feet. We have spent millions and millions, probably billions over the years on cars. We're now restoring it by trying to spend a little bit of money on bikes. So I absolutely do not believe we're anti-car. I don't accept that fact. I'm sorry if you don't like the fact that speed limits have gone down in some areas. I would favour a much lower speed limit across the board. I referenced telling you to find alternative transport methods when you're a taxi driver. Well, Sean, I don't think you mentioned being a taxi driver in that particular discussion. Your suggestion was that 40 miles an hour on the Broadstone Way was not acceptable, if I recall, and actually there have been accidents on that road because people don't stop at the traffic lights. If I was crossing a road as a pedestrian, I absolutely would not expect someone to be whizzing down at 50 miles an hour or more. Any road that has pedestrians crossing it, in my mind, should be 40 or 30 miles an hour, and there's no reason why we can't travel more slowly. Just wear a mask. Thank you, Zoe. Aaron Wakely, have trimmed back council's hedges overhanging my boundary. How do I get someone to collect your branches? I'm afraid you probably won't. I'm afraid you're probably going to need to put them in your green bin or take them to the tip. And if you do have hedges that are that are overhanging pavements, please can you cut them back? In some areas, people have quite understandably not been going outside, haven't been seeing, but in some areas, people's hedges are really over paths, and we really do need to ask people to sort them out. Nice to see Talk to Text working on the big screen. Yes. Okay, I'm partially sighted. Please address overhanging hedges. I've just mentioned that. Public toilets. Okay. Are more labs opening in Poole? There are lots of toilets opening in Poole at the moment. I'm not quite sure where you're expecting more toilets to open. It's going so fast. Sorry. Do I know when the cinema development is progressing? It's to do with the LNG development. So at the moment, I can't imagine that major investment like that is going to be happening. To be a proper bus hub in the town centre, it's dangerous. I disagree, actually, Zoe. Bus hubs are probably a thing of the past. We need to be making, if we build great big buildings for buses, we've then got to make sure that they're somewhere where you can build a big building, which means you're not going to have people. So you might need to give a bit more information. Okay, I'm good. Some of this is just mad. So with these comments, are we going to ditch the Christchurch police station for more shop? Why would we do that? We need more houses. The Christchurch police station, I think, has gone through planning. No reason why we would ditch no. It's hardly a top priority right now. Get the community to cut it down. Sorry, I'm moving to the area. Can you assist me in the school admissions as I can only apply for? Okay. If you move to the area and you need an in-year place, could you please just contact our schools department? They will help you. They are all working. They will find it difficult to comment with things by phone because most people are working remotely. We are moving over to a different telephony system, so we will be able to deal with phone calls more going forward, but really email is your way forward. There is a process for in-year applications if you've missed the window, but bear in mind you're not going to have the full range of schools available to you. Just a quick comment, it's impossible for me to answer everything that's coming through, and Facebook have changed their algorithm. I cannot go back and comment on everything anymore, otherwise it thinks I'm spamming. So I can only go back and do about 25 at a time. So perhaps if we could just slow the comments down, I can actually deal with them, because otherwise it's going to take me 5 days to go back and answer everybody. There are plants growing in some drains. Okay, if you have issues like drains that are blocked, trees that need dealing with, you need to use the Report It. Everybody can register for this. You're on Facebook, you've probably got an email address. You go on to your part of the website, Bournemouth, Christchurch or Poole, there will be a Report It function. Please report these things. I'm not going to take up everybody's small issue, which is incredibly important to you in your street, but you need to actually deal with that. Everybody has access to the website. You need to go on, you need to register. They can update you on when the issue has been dealt with, and it will go into the workflow. So whether it's a bin that's overflowing, whether it's a drain that's blocked, whether it's weeds that need dealing with, whatever those things need to be, they are part of our Report It, and it really needs to be pushed back to you to deal with them. If, on the other hand, you have done it and you've repeatedly done it and you're not getting anywhere, you have a ward counsellor. Most of you have 2. One area has 1 due to a death, but most people have 2. Some have 3 ward counsellors. That is their job. Please use them. Please do not expect the council to take that up with every individual item. You have ward counsellors, that is their role. You need to contact them if you're struggling to get something done within your ward. Okay, right, thank you, lucky. With 2 day centres being open for emergency placements, other day centres are not reopening. So we're not reopening most of our day centres at the moment. They're not safe to open. We are providing additional respite where we can. Everybody is in contact, but it's absolutely the most vulnerable people that we're not going to be bringing back into day centres. We are reviewing our day centre provision. Some of the day centre provision is not fit for purpose, certainly not fit for the 21st century. And are working with Tricuro, the provider of the day centres, of how we do that going forward. But I think it's highly unlikely that you're going to see normal previous service resume for day centres. We need to look at what people's individual needs are, and for many people what was being provided at day centres is not that. Where there is an emergency need, we have opened some of our day centre placements for those individuals, and some of the packages have been reviewed. Where people do need a bit more respite, they are being provided. Okay, Bournemouth has a great admission system online. Thank you. Perhaps Katie, you want to have a look at that. With people who lip read, I use a pen and paper. Thank you. Why are we predominantly building flats in the area? Well, no, I have lived in a flat, and if it had an outside space, I wouldn't object to living in a flat with children. In town centres, we have to build flats because we have to achieve something like 2,500 properties a year, and it's not feasible for us to get enough houses into very limited spaces. There are houses being built. We approved 14 houses in Kinston. We've got some more every month we're building more houses, but there are flats too, because it's not just families that need housing. We look at our housing waiting register and we try to deal with people across the board. We're also trying to encourage people who don't need to live in a house to move down to a flat, because there are people who are living in large houses that don't need to be living in large houses, and we do what we can to encourage them to downsize. Alder Road roadworks, temporary lights are crippling movements down Wallace Down Road. I don't know how long those ones are running. Probably best to ask your ward councillor, because it'll be several days before I'm able to reply because of this new system. Okay, can we just deal with this because it makes council more money? Can we just address this? Because there's a real hostility around the council making money. The council doesn't make money. The council has a very tight budget, which is funded from your council tax, and it has to provide 600 plus services. It has to have an income in order to spend hundreds of millions of pounds. 900 million pounds we spend on services, mainly for vulnerable people. Okay? If we don't make money from car parks, from beach huts, from selling you ice creams, from whatever else we're getting money in from, or selling pieces of land we no longer need so we can then build council properties that you can then live in if you're vulnerable, how are we going to actually provide those services? So please stop with this business of we want to make money. We're not a company. We don't make profit. We have no shareholders. You're our shareholders. If we don't have a decent income coming in, your council tax will go up, or we will have to... Apologies, I seem to have lost power for momentarily, but I am back if you are still there. So just to continue with my clarification, we have income and we have expenditure. We're not about making money. We are about getting an income in from three sources. One, council tax. The second source of income we have is business rates. The third source of income we have is fees and charges. So we might charge you for your day centre place if you have an income that it meets a certain threshold. We will charge you to park. We will charge you for a beach hut. We will trade our services by selling you things in our shops, on our land train, with a deck chair, whatever else it might be. So we have an income. We will charge you if your library book is late, or we will charge you if you want an additional service that's non-standard. We'll charge you for a green bin. We'll charge you for an extra bin. We'll charge you if you break something. Those are our fees and charges. We then have a tiny, tiny, tiny amount of what's called revenue support grant. The government used to give all councils a huge chunk of money, and that huge chunk of money was used to basically pay for services. That's gone down by over £100 million a year, and it's now something like, I don't know, 2 million, £3 million a year. It's likely to be zero next year. That tiny amount of money that we get from the government, plus your council tax, some business rates, most of which goes back to the government, but some we get to keep, rents from properties we've bought. So for example, we bought a trading estate in Poole, and then there's another one in Bournemouth. and we own various properties around that we get renting on. The money that we get from that, that's what pays for your services. If we don't have as much income, if we lose £50 million of income, there will be £50 million less of services next year, or we'd have to find £50 million more from you, i.e. charge you more council tax. We are limited in how much we're allowed to charge for council tax because there's a threshold. We can put it up 2%, 2.99% a year. If we try and go above that, then there has to be a referendum. You're likely to say no, therefore we're stuck. So we end up having to then close services, and you'll have seen in Hampshire this week there are I think 7 libraries that Hampshire Council has actually just announced the closure of. There are 300 redundancies at Hampshire County Council, and all of their libraries have had restricted times. Now we've got a choice. We want to keep those libraries open. We want to make those libraries better. We want to invest in our public toilets. We want to make our council houses better for those people who live in them. We want to improve things, but we can't do that if we don't have an income. So I'm sorry if you think we're making money, but frankly, that making money is charging you for a service which is a reasonable thing to charge for. There are things we can't charge for. There's things that we don't charge for, and there's an awful lot of things that you get for your council tax, which is as a standard. The really, really great thing is that the vast majority of the things that your council tax paid for, you will never, ever, if you're very lucky, have to see. A family who come into care, 4 children who have got, come into care either for whatever reason their parents can't care for them, maybe because of a prison situation, maybe because their parents are ill, maybe because they've been neglected or abused. 4 children can cost us up to £1 million a year to provide care for if they have complex needs. Where do you think that money comes from? If you're paying £2,000 a year in council tax, £1 million is, what's that? Is that, I don't even know, I can't even figure it out. 2,000 times 500, that's 1,000. It's lots and lots of us who are paying for that family to have that care and support, and those children might stay in care for 5 years or 10 years, and ultimately we have to fund that. An elderly person with dementia goes into a home and doesn't have their own home to pay for it. It could cost us £60,000 to £70,000 a year, maybe up to £100,000 a year to support them. That's what your council tax pays for. The street lights, the pothole, the pulling the weeds out of the drains, that is the icing on the cake. The vast majority of what we do is that fundamental protecting the vulnerable. And we need to remember that. So when you're criticising the fact that that we're charging you for things and that we're making money and that we're selling off a bit of wasteland, or that we're building flats so that people have homes, please just think about the fact of where is it you think our money comes from, because it's not quite as straightforward as you think, and most of what we do is completely and utterly invisible. Okay, Zoe's asking why public toilets are still closed in Poole. Perhaps you'd like to clarify which public toilets, because the public toilets that are in council ownership are the ones on Poole Quay up by the lifeboat station near the bridge. They have been open since early May. I've used them, I know. The ones under Dolphin Quays are in private ownership. They've been closed because the private owner has had problems with vandalism. They're not in council's ownership, therefore we cannot force them to be open. They are the ones that are run by the council in Poole Town Centre. So if they're the ones you're talking about, we put additional toilets into Ashley Cross as a temporary measure. Our toilets in Beta Park, Whitecliffe Park, the Dolphin Centre have got their toilets open. So I'm not quite sure, Zoe, which toilets you're complaining about, but Hamworthy toilets, which are run by a private company who very kindly picked that up, they're open. So the public toilets that are open toilets are open. Okay, it's gone past. I know we disappeared for a while, so I will carry on just for another moment. Just getting rid of a mobile call coming in. I have an idea for revenue congestion charge. Andrea, we are looking at a congestion charge, but can you imagine gosh, I can't imagine what some people might say if we brought in a congestion charge. We do have to consider it. we do have to consider the fact that we are the 4th most congested place, and we need to look at how we deal with that. But what we're doing is through transforming cities, we're trying to move people out of their car onto buses. We're trying to support the buses wherever we can. We're amending our projects so that we can make it easier for people to use the bus, faster for people to use the bus. We're working on integrated ticketing so that you can actually move your bus ticket between yellow buses and more buses. At the moment that's difficult. Integrate with trains. We're trying to put in bus gates and bus priority lanes so that the journey times go down. We're putting in more cycleways. We're trying to make it safer for people to cycle. We're trying to make it better with walking. We're trying to encourage remote working. We're trying to put our services out in the community. So we're trying to encourage all of the reduced congestion through other means. But if push comes to shove and people still carry on getting in their car creating congestion, then we do have to consider whether a congestion charge is needed. Can I say when cleaners are going to start back to work, cleaning communal areas as part of your rent? David, I'm really sorry. I'm going to have to ask you to refer back to your landlord. There's no reason why those communal areas shouldn't be being cleaned anyway. So if they're not, you probably need to refer to the managing agent of your flat. If it's a council flat, then you should have a point of contact within the housing team. Please can the track at Hendrickson Head have to keep left sign? Sarah, I will ask. If it's not a solid surface, then it might be difficult if it's on the floor. If there's no lamp post, there's nowhere to stick them on, so that might be tricky. Hello, Sam. Bus station loos. Okay, Zoe, if you talk about the bus station toilets are not the council's. They count. It's not feasible to open them at the moment. But obviously, if and when we get a new bus station, then we can resolve that. But it's not likely to be done imminently. The Dolphin Centre toilets are lovely. I'd recommend them. Happy to pay. Okay, right. Right. I'm sorry if you think I'm aggressive, Will. I'm really sorry if you think I'm aggressive, but have you seen the issues coming back at me about us wanting to make money? Because I find that actually quite aggressive too. So apologies if you don't like it. Incredibly fast things coming through. I'm honest, I'm straightforward. I'll tell you how it is, and if I think you're wrong, I'll tell you I think you're wrong. If I think you're doing a great job, I absolutely will. So there we go. Okay. Right, I can't see anything major coming on. Zoe, you really do seem to be concerned about the subway toilets. No, subway don't have to let you use their toilets if you don't actually frequent their business. That's normal. Unless somebody's joined a community toilet scheme, they don't have to let you use their toilets. I used to have a cafe myself, and we used to let people use toilets, but there is a cost if the public wander in and use the toilets. You have to be a customer. So, you know, if you're not a customer, then you have to expect that you need to become a customer to use someone's toilets. If not, the Dolphin Centre have toilets that are available to the public. KFC are the same in that they expect you to be a customer, and they'll give you a key if you're a customer. The bus station toilets are not likely to reopen. There's all sorts of issues there. So I'm afraid, you know, we can't provide toilets everywhere that people want and need them. But as we improve the town centres, we will move them forward and hopefully get to the point where people are able to have great facilities wherever they go. In Bournemouth, as you say, we don't have a bus station, so you have to find toilets in the lower gardens, which are available long hours. So there are no bus station toilets there. Obviously, there's a bus station up at the travel interchange with Asda, and again, Asda have long opening hours where you can use the toilets at that location. So I don't see any more questions coming in. Thank you, Darren, for your kind words. Just trying to think, next week we'll be moving to 1 o'clock. It's likely we might remain at a 1 o'clock time. Every week I seem to get a few people who would like to see Boris Johnson perform at Prime Minister's Question Time and be part of this as well. So we are going to move to 1 o'clock. It's also because our cabinet meeting takes place every month on a Wednesday, and it's very difficult to get it finished in time for 12 o'clock and also do justice to it. So we're going to move to a permanent 1 o'clock finish. We will probably step down in August so that we're not running every week. This obviously was a COVID initiative. We will be carrying it on. We know that you like it. I enjoy being able to have the chance to share some of what we do behind the scenes. So we will probably be moving to a different model, potentially fortnightly. We may look to bring some other people in as well. Finally, Matt, please do use Widen My Path or widenourpath.com for all of your suggestions with regard to ideas for cycling and walking. We have another tranche of money we're expecting through, and in August we have to submit our list of schemes to government. So we are working on that shortlist at the moment, and if you want to make sure your idea is in that shortlist, get onto widenmypath.com and submit your ideas now. So I'll see you all again next week at 1 o'clock, and I will work through as quickly as I can with the comments that are on here, but I will only be able to do them in small batches because of the new rules for Facebook. So have a good week and make sure you use your sun cream. Bye bye.